Now we are going to start writing the code corresponding to the page load, which will hide certain elements and show certain elements. So when we load our page, we want to show only the text inputs and the start reading button. Also, we're going to write code to execute once we click on the start reading button. So when we load our page, we want to hide all elements except for these two. So this includes all the buttons that we are using while reading, like the new button. So let's use the ID of the button and use the hide method to hide it. Also, we're gonna hide the resume button and the pause button. We'll need to hide also the sliders. Okay, so an easy way to do that is by placing all these sliders inside a div, and let's give that div an ID. So let's open the div right there. Okay, and give it an ID. Controls, for example. And let's close the div right after the progress slider. Okay, right there. Okay, so we're gonna just indent all the contents inside the div. And let's save. And now we're just going to be accessing the div of ID controls and hiding it. Okay, so if we try this, let's refresh our page. Okay, now we don't see the sliders and we don't see all these three buttons. Okay. Now let's hide the reading box and the error message. So if we look inside the index.html file, the reading box is of ID results and the error message has got ID error. Okay, so let's save. And now we only see the text input and the start reading button. Okay. Now let's move to code corresponding to clicking on the start reading button. So let's access the button first using its ID, which is start. Okay, let's just check that. Okay, let's start. And now we're gonna use the click method of jQuery, which will take a function as a parameter. Okay. So first of all, as we said in the logic of the app, we will need to get the text, okay, and split it to words inside an array. Okay. So let's just write a comment there to make our code readable. So we're gonna guess the text and split it to words that we will store inside an array. Okay. So to do this, we are going to use a variable for our array. So let's declare this variable at the beginning. I'm going to call it my array, and we're going to set that variable using the value of the input. Okay, and then we're going to use a method called split. Okay, so first let's guess the input. So we're going to select the input using its ID, which is the user input, and then we're going to get the value of the input, which is .val, so we can guess it using the val method, and then we're going to use the split method okay, which will take a regular expression in the parameter. So we want a regular expression that matches spaces, tabs, new lines, and so on, okay? So this regular expression is going to be, so inside // that's going to be \s, okay? And we're going to add a plus sign, okay, so that we can match these elements like spaces, tabs, and new lines, even if they are repeated, okay? So we're looking at one or more spaces, one or more tabs, and so on, okay? So let's just write a comment there. So / or \s will match spaces, tabs, new lines, etc. Okay. And we're going to add the quantifier plus means one or more. Okay. All right, so now we've got our array and we've got our words inside the array. So we need to check the length of the array. If the text is too small, then we're going to show an error message, just like this. Okay, so to get the length of the array, we're going to use another variable. So let's call it input length. Okay, so this will correspond to the length of the array, and we're going to set it to the array, and then we're going to use the option length of the array. Okay, let's just add a comment. So we are getting here the number of words. Okay, now let's check if the number of words is too small. Okay, so if the variable input array is greater than 1, okay, which means that there is enough input, then we are going to start reading, okay? Otherwise, we are going to show the error message if we don't have enough text inputs, okay? So to show the error message, we're just going to access the div, which is ID error, and we're going to use the show method to show it.